Whoa, right then, step by step, how to conquer the fear of girls and cold approach. My promise to you by the end of this video is that you'll know what action steps to actually take. I feel like everyone wants to talk about mindset with this and think about it this way and, oh bro, just be confident, blah, 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 but no one actually talks about action steps, how to become the sort of person that can cold approach. So I'm going to leave you with actual, tangible tasks to get better at this, which I've not actually seen anyone do, to be completely honest with you. And who am I? Who am I to give you advice like this? So you've probably seen me on TikTok if you're here. We've actually grown quite a lot since then, which is superb. But most likely you weren't naturally good with women. I definitely wasn't. Cold approach for me was something that I never even considered to be an option. And I would see guys around me getting with girls, and I'd be like, where did you meet this girl? Where did you meet this girl? And they'd just be like, oh, I spoke to her. And just that idea in general to me was like, what the fuck? Like, what, you just went up and spoke to her? So out of the ordinary for me. So from where I am to where I was then, I made a huge difference. And basically the way I did it is the way that I'm going to teach you how to do it now. Step one, the best way to start is with low-hanging fruits. So, what a lot of people are trying to do right now is they want to go out, they want to speak to girls, but they're battling against everything internally that they have about themselves in terms of beliefs. So they think that they're a quiet person. And I get comments like this a lot, like people do just see themselves as a quiet, introverted person. And when you have this belief about yourself, how the fuck do you think that you can crack that? At the hardest turn, like the hardest thing to do right now as someone who doesn't go out and speak to people is to go out and speak to an attractive girl. You're not going to do it. Like, you aren't going to do it. So you need to start picking up the low-hanging fruits to start giving yourself new proof of who you say or think that you are. Like the guys who see themselves as quiet, you need to start by not speaking to the attractive women. It's to change a belief about yourself. You can't just wake up on the right side of the bed. So you've got to implement new proof so that your actions are going to orbit around the new person that you want to be. And the way that we do this is by finding places where it's piss easy to talk to new people. And I'll give you examples of this. So when I first started, I'm a bit of a sunset merchant, so I'll always like go and watch the sunset. I live near this area called the Peak District, so I can literally go on like a mini hike and then find a sick place to watch the sunset. I used to take a drone up with me and I would just speak to anyone on the trail on the way up, or people at the top if they had a dog or anything like that. Such an easy in for a conversation, and there's not any upside for me doing that. I'm not getting a girl's number. I'm not making friends really. Nothing's really happening. All that's happening is I'm just flexing that muscle and speaking to new people because it's easy to speak to them, but not necessarily rewarding. Another place where I've done this as well is private gyms, especially in the morning. I think morning gym sessions are so underrated for building up confidence to speak to new people, because this is when most people are receptive. What a lot of people want to do when they're building this skill up is think, where are the most people, and they want to find the most volume. But you're probably not ready for that right now. Like, I would probably go to a more intimate setting. Like, I've even put there a working men's club. Like, if you're not this wellness fucking sunset gym guy, working men's clubs, like, they're all old blokes or old women. They're not really attractive people, but it's such an intimate setting, so people are more receptive to a conversation. And yeah, like I say, nature reserves, dog walks, things like that. And the goal for this, so this is step one, the goal for this is just a greeting, or literally you'll walk past them, so they're coming from here, you're coming from here, you'll walk past them like that, and at like this point, all you're going to do is just be like, oh, hiya, you're right. That's all you're going to do. And whatever I don't know, every area in the UK has got a different way that people greet each other. For me, that's it. Like, oh, you're right. That's what we say. And if a back and forth presents itself, great, fair enough, go for it. You'll find that it does, to be fair, in these private gym sort of environments, these quiet AM gym sessions. A lot of the time, then you will get into a conversation. But the key here is that there's no risk or downside because there's no reward. So you're not going to gain anything in terms of a partner from this. Well, you might, but you're very, very unlikely to do so. You're not going to get much from it other than we're reprogramming the beliefs that we've got about ourselves. So there's no risk to it, and there's no downside because there's no upside. But you're going to slowly start to change your beliefs. You do this for a week, 10 days. How are you going to sit and tell me that you're a quiet person when you've spoke to fucking 25, 30, 40 new people? It just doesn't make sense. And yeah, bonus points if you can translate this into a more natural social circle. So if you're the guy who's speaking to most people at family meetups, barbecues, weddings, things like that, you're asking people, you know, where are you from, what do you do, blah, 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 stuff like that. But don't worry about that if not, because these are all sort of situational things. Not a lot of us can just click his fingers and there's a massive meetup that we can go and exploit for social XP. There's not really much of that. This is a bad photo. Okay, so this was me, and I didn't realise what I was doing. This was when I was the most social before this whole thing. This was the best before my best. This was before I got into relationships. I had a long-term girlfriend that kind of just took me out of the game. There were no serious life, there were no problems, anything like that going on. And the reason why that were the best before my best were because I was spending so much time in these intimate settings. So I'd go to like work in men's clubs, things like that, karaoke nights. And because of that, like I weren't going into these work in men's clubs thinking like this is going to make me more social and then I'll be able to speak to girls better. But because I was doing it, and because I was speaking to more people, and because I trained in a private gym, I became so good at just being a social person. And my workplace as well really promoted it, to be fair. I worked in like hospitality, so all your co-workers, they fucking come and go. It's like college, uni students, things like that. So there was that, but even without that, like it made me such a social person. And this was the time in my life where I spoke to the most women. I was the most confident with girls, and I looked fucking terrible. And that's why I've put that photo there. I looked terrible, but I was still alright, and that's the reason why. So step 2 from that, because you can't just go around saying hello to people and not building. So you'll now know that you're not just a quiet person, and that's not your easy out. So by now you've started speaking to you've started speaking to more people, but as with any approach, a wave and a hello is not going to be enough to get it over the line, because we do want a result. So you need to build a back and forth that seems natural and effortless and non-interviewing. And when I say all this stuff like, oh, it's going to be natural, effortless, you can't come across as needy for an outcome, and you can't ask too many questions, blah, 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 people get overwhelmed and make it seem like it's harder than it is. It's not. It's really, really not. The easy way to develop the muscle memory to do this with strangers is either using places from before, like I said, you can build the conversations up, or employees. You go and pay for petrol, you go and go to Tesco's, whatever. This is such an easy way to start to build this muscle, and what's going to happen is natural, effortless, non-interview it's all going to come as second nature to you, because you've been doing it for so long without any desire for an outcome, because you've been doing this for, I say so long, you can probably do a week, 2 weeks, and you're absolutely fine. So 1 to 3 extra lines of dialogue, that's all it takes. So let's say you're buying something. You know, what time are you getting off work today? Fucking hell, it's quite quiet today. Is it normally like this? Oh my God, it's absolutely rammed here. Is it always this busy? Do you know what I mean? So any environment, it works. Any environment, it works. Do you mind? Okay, so that's a good example, to be fair. Do you mind if so that's when I used to take my drone up for sunset shots, and I would always go up to the people that had dogs and be like, oh, do you mind if I fly my drone? I know you've got a dog, I don't know how it reacts. Stuff like that, so like a permission-based opener. Same with directions. Directions are a really, really good one. Good spots takes a little bit more nerve, in my opinion. I think if you took me when I first started and you said, right, okay, you've got to go and ask a stranger what a good spot for XYZ is. What I mean by that is, like, you find someone and you're like, oh, I'm not from around here. Where's good to get a coffee? Or where's good to play pool? Or something like that. You can do that, but I think then you are venturing into pure cold approach territory, which is, take notes, like, it's a good idea, but for this stage, it's not really what we're focusing on. So these, permission openers is a really, really good one. You can use the do you mind one in a gym as well. So like if you want to use a certain machine setup, so imagine there's like a cable set and you want to pull a bench towards that cable set, so you can do like sitting chest flies or something like that. I don't know. Any of these work in any situation really. But these are just going to get a conversation going, and the key here is that you're doing it with employees, so you're not really going to get much negative feedback. What we're basically doing is conditioning your brain here. The first step was to condition your brain to convince yourself that you're a social person. The second step, this step, is to condition your brain to be good at conversations with strangers, but also to decatastrophize how bad of an outcome it can have, and not... A lot of people... I had a comment a few months ago from a guy, and he was like, the worst case scenario is you lose your mortgage because you get reported to police, blah, blah, blah. What the fuck? Like, what the fuck? So what we're doing here is we're realising that people are more open to a conversation than you think. And that's basically it. We're doing it with employees, people that, you know, we're in intimate settings. You're not really going to get any negative feedback. So you're going to build your skills up. We aren't really getting scared off. And that's exactly what I've said here. You put yourself into the world a tiny, tiny bit, just enough to see how people interact. So you're going to just get good socially, is what I meant when I wrote that. And that's the thing as well. Like, people want to say, like, I had this reaction to a cold approach, or the negative towards me when I went and spoke to them. It's not a fault of your own, and especially if it's in this situation where you're getting that sort of reaction, it's their fault, not yours. Like, they must have an attitude to be weird with you. Like, if you're speaking to an employee that works at a shop and they're being a cunt, that's not your fault. Like, that's them. They've just got an attitude, they're in a shit mood. Maybe the boss has pissed them off. Do you know what I mean? But what you're most likely to actually realise is that talking to people and expecting no in return yields an average positive feedback. People are so much more receptive to a conversation than you realise. People, especially employees, they're used to being like robotic. So when you're the person that will go up and start, you know, they'll ask one or two questions. It takes them out of that completely. It's a pattern interrupt. It's refreshing. And this is the attitude that I want to train and maintain and have you believe when you are going in and cold approaching, that people are by default nice to speak to. And if they're not nice to speak to, it's their fault, because you are well within your right to do this. Step 3, compliments in passing. This is fucking cracked. I don't see anyone talking about this. This is the best way. The best way. And I actually think that you can get actual numbers and dates lined up from this as well. I say that, but you can do this with girls and guys. And guys. I think guys are a lot more open to compliments than girls in general, because it's like rocking horse shit. I mean, you go on a girl's Instagram and, beautiful, oh, you look so hot, blah, 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 heart eyes emoji, and guys don't really get that. So you're probably going to get a lot more of a confidence boost from complimenting fellas. And then from there, it's just a ripple effect. We want to... When we see an attractive girl, especially if you've not done this before, probably your main train of thought right now is, fucking hell, she's attractive, she's fit, she's hot, whatever. When we challenge ourselves to give compliments in passing, we're now making it so that our default setting is something that we can actually use. The thought of like, fucking hell, she's unreal, that's not really something we can work with. Like, it's like acting on an emotion, right? But you can't really use that to your advantage. So when we start giving compliments in passing, you're going to make yourself more socially calibrated to actually using things to open a conversation. And a lot of people have that by default. So maybe when they grew up, they had bigger friend groups, and their parents were different. They played in sports teams. They had hobbies that promoted, you know, teamwork or fucking better friendships, whatever. They think of things faster to say. Have you ever noticed, like, there's always one person in a group of people, and they just know what to say. Like they bang, like, straight away they'll say something, and it'll always land, and people will find it funny. They've almost had what I'm telling you to do naturally just through their upbringing. And if you've clicked on a fucking video like this, you probably haven't. So this is the best way to replicate it. I used to be so jealous of this skill. I used to be so, obviously, I was terrible socially, and there were always one guy that I was mates with, and he just knew the right thing to say every time, and people would always laugh at it. And it's only until recently that I was able to build this up as well, and it was because I started doing this. So this is how you develop that in your own brain. So you need to start giving fleeting compliments and firing from the hip to start a conversation. The highest ROI way to do this is by finding an optimal place to compliment outfits or activities. So I think I put a little photo down here. A place like this, like a strip where people are out drinking and they've got dressed up, they've put some attention and effort into the way that they've dressed, is the best way to do this. Because of volume, because now we need volume, and it's so easy to gravitate towards an outfit when they put effort into it. And maybe, like I always use fucking like cowboy boots. Girls will wear the like cowboy hats as well. That's another thing. But what I mean by this is, see where them two lads are there. Imagine that these two, there's the fat girl and the guy that are walking in the opposite direction. At the point that they're at, I would give the compliment and I would carry on fucking walking. I would carry on walking. I wouldn't even stay around to wait for a reply. But what you'll find is that some people are more warm to this, and because straight away you'll know whether they're warm or not, they'll stop and you'll almost talk yourself into a conversation that you weren't expecting yourself to have. But especially if you're not comfortable speaking to strangers on this sort of level, you're going to find this piss easy. It's so easy. And like I said, sometimes you'll get actual results from it. Funny things to know. The last time I did this, I was giving compliments, and I remember one girl was like, "Oh, you're the third person to tell me that tonight," and I was talking about a dress. And I were only doing this to warm up, right? I were only doing this because I practice what I preach, blah, blah, blah. But for a lot of guys, this is the best approach in their repertoire. They do it for an actual desired outcome. And I beat this drum of like outcome independence because people can feel it. Like people can fucking feel it. Every time I do this, it is purely because I'm warming up. I'm socially lubing up. That's it. I'm not doing this because this is a cold approach. I'm doing this because I want to become more social. I want to get into that flow state. So it's the best warm-up method, but guys are treating it like an opener, and that's, I think, why they get so poor results. So, yeah, I would treat it as a warm-up, not an ace up your sleeve, or as a last resort when you've got nothing to say, because any approach is better than no approach. So there's that. Cool. So if you've done it, I would probably say it takes about 3 weeks. If you've done this for about 3 weeks, you're probably at the point where you feel confident speaking to people in general. So now we've just got to get you over the fear of the actual girl themselves. So if you've done this actually, like you've not skipped steps, shit like that, you'll have evolved out of a lot of fundamentally wrong frames of mind that you had, like outcome dependence. So you'll have done fleeting compliments. You'll have spoke to people expecting nothing in return. You'll have got over the self-image issues that you had of thinking that, you know, I'm just a quiet person. This is not who I am. You'll have talked yourself out of that because you've given yourself so much new evidence that you can't even stand on that belief anymore. It doesn't make sense to stand on that belief. And the fear of pretty girls as well, like I said, instead of you thinking, oh, fucking hell, she's so fit, you started thinking like, right, what shall I say? What ways do I have to compliment, or what ways do I have to start a conversation? So you'll have naturally gravitated away from she's attractive and more towards how can I actually develop something from this. So from there, what does a good approach look like? Actually, John, I'll go back onto that in a minute. I'll cover that after this. People want to say, you know, oh, say this, say that, but there's so many moving parts. What I would say on a daytime high street when I see a girl walking with a bag of shopping, as opposed to what I would say on a night out, are two completely different things. What I would say to a girl on her own, as opposed to what I would say to a girl in a group of four, are two completely different things. So you've got to bear this in mind. What I would suggest for people that are struggling and they're only just starting out in a nighttime setting or a group setting with a girl, which is going to be the easiest way to start, would be by going out with a group of pals with the intention of just having a good night, getting some drinks, doing a couple of activities, blah, blah, blah. Because like I said, you can't go out with this dependence on approaching women. It's not going to work for you. You're going to put too much pressure on yourself. So I'll be going out, I'll be having a good time, just going about my night as normal. And through the course of the night, if you've got the right people around you, you're just going to have conversations with people, and you're probably going to have debate-style topics. And from there, you can use that. You can use that to start a discussion through debate or opinion. So I'll give you an example. So I was speaking to someone from Scotland, and they were like, "Oh, I'm going abroad." I'm like, "Oh, where are you going?" And they were saying like, "Fucking England." And they were saying going to Scotland, going from England to Scotland is abroad. I'm like, "What the fuck? No, it's not." So me and my pal started talking about this, and I literally went around saying like, "I've just been speaking to my pal, and they reckon that going from Scotland to England is going abroad. Like, would you say that's abroad?" And from there, I were in a shitload of conversations. And this is the beauty of that as well, because no one doing that is doing it with the sole intention of like, I want to fuck this girl. And because of that, you're gonna get better results. You're not clinging on to an outcome like, "Oh, I just think you're so attractive, can I get your number?" You're not communicating interest, and you're actually sparking a debate, and because of that, emotion. Especially if you do this with other things, like that's really, really surface level. You can do this with deeper things. You can do this with relationship style questions. You can do this with I won't go into all political, but you get what I mean. Like, you can spark emotion through debate, through excitement, through humour, even through being polarising. So that's what I would do. That's how I would lead an approach if I was on a nighttime setting. On a daytime setting, I think you're going to struggle a lot more to do that because it's less promoted to be a social person. So I wouldn't really do this. And also, you're more likely to find girls on their own in this sort of setting, as opposed to when you're out on a night out, you're never going to find girls on their own. So there's two things you can do in a daytime approach. Obviously, you can go up and compliment her, blah, 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 but I'm not going to talk about that because I think it's kind of shit. You can either start with a conversation that's environmental or based on her, or you can start with a conversation based on you. So a lot of people disagree with this, but it's actually where I've got the best results. You don't need to go up to a girl and say like, "Oh, I like your necklace, where did you get it from?" and then have the conversation constantly about her, because at the end of the day, you are a guy that she doesn't know, and she's going to instantly be on the back foot. If you go up to her and you start a conversation based on you, and you open yourself up to criticism, so maybe you've just got a new pair of sunglasses, maybe a new pair of trainers, you've done your hair a different way, your beard's different, whatever. You can go up to a girl, and you've got all the license to do this, go up to a girl and be like, "Oh, you look like the sort of person I'd be spending time with. What do you think about this? I've just done this. I've just bought this." And you've opened yourself up to criticism, which immediately is going to make her more comfortable with you, as opposed to the guy who's gone up to her and said, "Oh, I really like this on you. What are you doing? Where are you from?" It's going to immediately make her more comfortable with you. And you can kind of do this with the environment thing as well, because if you find out, like I say, like, you can sort of use the "what's good" line. What's good? What good coffee shops around here? What good restaurants around here? Like I said earlier, this is almost like a cold approach line. You can use this and you can build common ground through it, which is another way of disarming people. I just don't like in the daytime when people are going about their shit, stopping them and saying like, you. It's like you're selling to them, and no one likes being sold to. That for me is the sort of dynamic that you give off when you do that. A couple of things that I often hear from guys when it comes to why they can't approach or why they don't approach. I'll start with bottom one actually, because I think it's the most important, the most interesting one. When I'm out with this guy, we always speak to people, or when I'm out with this guy, he's got the energy. Fucking, you always have the best nights with that guy. And a lot of the time, if you're not out with the right people, you're gonna struggle. So when you're doing this in a group, I wouldn't go out with people that are mardy. I wouldn't go out with your mate who's just come out of a relationship and he's fucking constantly crying over it. I wouldn't go out with mates who are in a bad frame of mind. I would go out with people that are bubbly, that are fun to be around, because it's gonna make the world a difference. If not, I would just try and meet new mates, and I would do this in the more intimate settings, your morning AM gym sessions, blah blah blah. Who cares about girls anyway? I think you're all talking shit. If you're honest, trying to tell me that you don't care about girls and you don't want to approach the attractive girl, I think you're full of shit. I think you've talked yourself into that because you can't do it, and I think that you're doing that because By saying that you don't want it, you don't have to admit a deficit in character because you can't do something. So you lot that are trying to convince me that you don't care about girls, I don't fucking believe you one bit. I'm too ugly, I'm too short. These are all things that I see why you would say that. I see why people would think, oh, I'm too ugly, I'm too short, blah, blah, blah. I think that you can be very average with a very low amount of effort. I think height, money, things like that matter a lot less when you've got the bollocks to go and approach someone, because you've got to realise you're playing in such a smaller field. Maybe on the social media game, this matters more. But when you're going and approaching, these girls don't know you, and I'm here to tell you, it does not matter at all. Like, at all. People are going to see through this, and as long as you are average looking, and you don't talk yourself out of a girl's attraction, you're going to take yourself so much further than you think. And I mean, if you think that you're not attractive enough, you think that you're too short, like, what evidence are you basing this off? It's probably off fucking internet. And the internet will the internet will convince you that whatever you want to believe is true. Like I said, you don't want to go out and put the effort in and try cold approaching because it's uncomfortable. So you form this belief to excuse you from doing that. Whereas, like, I could go on the internet right now and find out that I'm nowhere near attractive enough to approach girls. I could. And I could believe that that's true and not cold approach girls because of it. And my life would be significantly worse. So I think that this belief does not serve you at all. I think if you put an average amount of effort in, you've got no excuse. Obviously, top one, I'm quiet / an introvert. I've tackled that. If you've done the work at this point, you've fixed that self-image of yourself. The I don't know what to say thing as well. If you have gone out and you've given the fleeting compliments and you've programmed your brain to start thinking about solution-based thinking rather than diagnosis-based thinking, which is, oh, she's fit, that's a diagnosis. A solution is, oh, I'm going to go and say this to her. If you've done that and you still don't know what to say, you still have this, and that's the reason why you're not doing it, I'm going to... you've probably got mates that you can hold a conversation with and have no problems doing that. When you tell me that you don't know what to say, what I actually hear is everything that's coming to your mind that you could say, you're filtering out because you don't think that it's going to work. So I actually think that I don't know what to say comes back to outcome dependence. So as soon as you untrain outcome dependence, you're going to have a lot more things to say to girls than the guy who didn't do that. When you realise that next to nobody can do this, you realise how much higher your chances are. This is what I mean. You can be a 5 out of 10 and have the world of success with cold approaching, as long as you're not talking yourself out of a girl's attraction. And this is the reframe that I want you to have. So a lot of people are like, oh, you can't talk a girl into being attracted to you. 100% true. 100% true. But the average guy is not talking a girl into being attracted to them. They've talked a girl out of attraction. And then they're blaming it on the way that they look. That's what they're doing. So I'll give you an example. Like, back in the day, I used to have so many girls who I knew were physically attracted to me. And I remember the way that they were with me when I first started speaking to them. And then over time, it becomes harder and harder and harder to get what I want from them girls, get effort from them girls, get favours from them girls. It becomes increasingly harder because you talk yourself out of attraction. And one of the ways that people do this is by the normal vanilla approach of, oh, I think you're really attractive. And the normal vanilla frames of mind of, I need her number, outcome dependence. This self-image that they've got of themselves, that they're quiet, and then they break that to go and speak to a girl, and then because of that, they seem so much more nervous and inauthentic when they're doing it, and because of that, they've talked her out of fucking attraction. These are things that people are doing. So, when you follow these steps, when you do what I've actually said, step by step, and don't skip them, you're going to find yourself just being the person that can go out and speak to more people, and it's going to benefit you in more places than just women, to be honest with you, because the benefits don't stop there. So yeah, you do this right, and I promise you're going to get so much better results, because no cunt is doing this. I don't see people sober going out and cold approaching. I was the only one this summer in my local city that I saw speaking to new girls, like doing approaches, really getting invested in this. So it's not something that people do, and it's not something people are often good at. So that should give you a lot of hope for where you're at and improving your dating life. And that, gents, is a wrap. What you're best off doing, if you've got any questions, you want any advice from me, or like specific things to say based on your environment, is direct messaging me on Instagram. My links are all in my bio. I don't read my comments. I don't think anything good comes from reading comments. Nearly all of them are bullshit. I read the comments on my first video on YouTube, but on my TikTok, stuff like that, I never read comments. So any one-to-one advice or anything like that, I'm not selling coaching right now, so pop me an email, pop me a fucking email, pop me an Instagram DM, and I'll try and get through them as best I can. But fucking half an hour deep. Thank you for joining me on this embargo of helping guys improve their confidence to speak to women. Like I said, go and follow me on, this is where I'm most active, TikTok. You can see my art there. We're actually growing quite fast at the minute. I've got big plans to take this further as well, so a lot of value is going to be coming from me in the next 6 to 12 months. So you're definitely going to want to be following me on TikTok, and keeping up with the YouTube uploads as well, because this is where I think I can give the most value. I think long form content is the hardest form of content to make, especially for me as a beginner. I've been doing this for 7 months, I think, now, and long form is definitely the hardest, but I think I can get the most value out to people from this. So yeah, I would definitely say keep an eye on the uploads, and the TikTok as well is where I give the most value on actual methods of approaching, because what I wanted to talk about today was how to get from zero, where you just fucking have no chance of being able to approach a girl, to being able to do it, and then almost an insight into how to start doing it. But yeah, hopefully this helped you guys. Hopefully you've got a little bit of game plan moving forward. I'll leave you at that.